welcome one, welcome all to another developer interview here on the Xbox Expansion Pass. I'm your host, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and today I'm joined by Yoan Fanise, creative director for Road 96 Mile Zero. Yoan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you to be here at this time.
It's early for me, but I don't think it's as early for you, yeah?
No, it's okay. It's 11 here.
There you go. Okay, good timelines for you then. Now, tell me, Road 96 Mile Zero, this is a prequel, yes?
Yes. Yes,
All
yes.
right. So tell me a little bit about the world of Road 96 then.
Yeah, yeah. When we made Road 96, we created this weird country, called Petria. and
Hmm.
and we just put it you as on the road already as a teenager trying to cross and the border, and because we put you already on the road, nobody knew really where you come from, why are you on the road, why did you decide to go on the road. So this time we say, okay, maybe we need to explain a bit what happens before, what happens when you are still at home, when what are the troubles, what are the thinking that you have that make you go on the road and try to escape your country.
Interesting. Now, this concept of wanting to escape your country is one that I think shows up a lot in not video games, but in real life, particularly of late. Uh, I would argue that the world of Road 96 is remarkably political in some ways, which I think you explore with your different characters. In Mile Zero, we have Zoe and Kaito. Can you talk a little bit about the characters that we inhabit in Mile Zero?
Yeah, yeah. We wanted to have like different examples of teenagers from different backgrounds, and so we chose Kaito. That is, it's funny because he's also a character we created for the first game we did, Lost in Harmony, and his background, his backstory was fitting perfectly what we needed for a normal teenager, I would say,
Mhm.
in Petria. And then we wanted to confront that point of view and that life to another type of life, the one of Zoe, who is really, really different for people who played Ronin 6. Zoe, she's very special. She comes from a different background. And so we wanted to put you in not just in a normal position of, okay, you're a teenager, you struggle, your parents struggle, and you decide to leave the country, but also some people who are in another position and don't have the same reality around them, and to confront those realities, to create those shock, those friction between their point of views.
Interesting. And there is a lot of friction, I think, because you mentioned they come from two very different backgrounds. Uh, Without going too far into the game, like it seems like they are very different backgrounds, both economically, perhaps racially, or
Yeah.
uh, yeah. Talk to me a little bit about kind of why you chose the characters you chose and how they're informed by their background.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of influence when we create stories, and this time we wanted to talk, instead of talking about politics like in Row 96, we wanted to talk about what happens before that, when you're a teenager, when you're younger. You're not yet,
Hmm.
thinking about politics or this kind of thing. You're just starting to get an opinion on things, and your opinion is shaped by the reality that is around you and what you think is the reality. And I love the fact that Kaito is coming from the capital city, Colton City, and he's in this new like residence, a very rich residence, closed, like what you call a condominium, like something very special. And
Hmm.
by this, he can confront his reality to Zoe's one, that she's always been in that residence. And so we wanted to show, okay, this is not because what is just around you make you think that the whole world is like that, and you sometimes you have to go beyond that and try to be more curious, and look around to see maybe it's very different like somewhere else.
Do you have to do, or I should rephrase that? What kind of research do you need to do to kind of create the positions that each of these characters are going to be in? When you create a political landscape for your characters to inhabit, obviously you have to base them off some reality, but then you're taking a very teenage perspective to this. So, was there any research involved in doing that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of different research, and there's also real life. Like for example, I've been living in Singapore for 2 years, 10 years ago, and when I arrived in Singapore, it's a very small country, a very special country, and I was an expat, and I lived in this kind of condominium, very like closed residence, and the more I was there, the more I was like, no, this looks like fake reality. It's very
Mhm.
nice, it's very safe, but it looks like something is hidden in that country. And then
Mhm.
you really start to dig in and talk to people, and then you discover that there is a hidden reality, and there are a lot of poor people also in Singapore, but they are not, you don't see them necessarily. And so this is the kind of thing that I really wanted to try to show, because you also meet people that just stay in this kind of residence, and their view is very different. They say, "Wow, it's the perfect country. It's like everybody is nice," and you say, "Hey, I'm maybe maybe it's different." So, so it's the kind of or of research, I would say, like real life experience
Mhm.
that make you want to show this kind of thing in a game or so. Why not? So
Mhm.
yeah, this is the kind of thing. But we mix. It's not just pointing this country or this country. This is where
Mhm.
Petria maybe is interesting, because we can mix, as it's a dystopian country, we can mix every influence. It
Mhm.
looks a bit like US, but the regime politic is more like communist kind of like. So we try
Mhm.
to really mix different stuff inside here.
That was something I noticed, as I was playing through the early parts of Mile Zero, because I didn't go too far. I wanted to save my impressions to join with somebody, but, um, the world is there are parts of it that I was like, "Oh, this could be a dystopian United States," but this part doesn't make sense. This part would be more like this country or that country. So
Yeah.
to hear you talk about it, it makes me wonder if maybe I'm just projecting things that I've experienced onto the game.
Yeah, and this is something really funny, because when the Ronin Things launched, we had the same comment from all over the world. We had a lot of people from each country saying, "Whoa, this is a satire of my country. This is something I really relate to." And it was funny. We should make a world map, and with all those quotes of people saying, "This is my country. This is my country." This
Oh, man.
it was very wow for Russian people also. They told that, like Chinese people also, like yeah, it was Argentina, like yeah, from many France, of course,
Mhm.
from, from many countries. But in My Zero, yeah, the beginning of the game is more light, like shallow, I would say. Like they're still teenagers. We didn't want
Mhm.
to go directly, in something that is quite complex or dark, or it's really like, let's go from something light and funny to play to progressively, whoa, something really serious, where things really matter. And
Mhm.
like the movie, maybe you've seen this Korean movie called Parasite. It's a very funny, crazy movie.
Mhm.
That is, yeah, it's the beginning is something and the end is really something else. Like, and I love the kind of switch you can have in the middle.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, as you in the early portions of Mile Zero, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say this, you're just kids talking about life and best friends, and then you move and you choose where to go, and I chose to go up to, the villas where one of the main characters, Zoe, lives, and suddenly I'm surrounded by bodyguards and, agents, I guess you might call them, and I'm just like, "Oh, this took a turn."
Yeah, and we even made an anthem for this country, for Petria, so they have to sing the anthem every day. And it's
I
really,
noticed that, and I was like, "Do I stand still and wait or just keep exploring?" I chose to explore in my teenage rebellion.
yeah.
I was like, "Alright, I'll explore." Now, do players need to be familiar with the world of Road 96 to enjoy or start Mile Zero?
No, we made sure that both can work. Like in any order, you can start with 196 or Mile Zero. I would even advise maybe to start with Mile Zero as a first course, I would say, before going to
Mhm,
the main course, because Mile Zero is smaller. It's 5 to 7 hours gameplay.
mhm,
It's a more linear kind of experience. As 196, is crazy procedural, like, so maybe it's more digestible, my zero
mhm.
at the beginning.
Gotcha. Okay. I started to get that feeling too because I was unfamiliar with Road 96. And as I was playing Mile Zero, I'm like, I really like this world and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And so I wanted any listener uh, to hear you kind of respond to that because I was curious if they could just pick up Mile Zero and then go from there,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
it's very like a kind of Star Wars structure,
Yep.
because there was like, okay, people who know Star Wars, then you do the beginning, then you have to make sure that. The funny thing is that I cannot have the perception of someone who didn't know Ronin 6 before. So we
Hmm.
did a lot of playtests to make sure that it was understandable. We
Hmm.
did some tweaks about dialogues and who are the Black Brigades, who are the like the component of the country. But
Hmm.
I don't know what it's gonna be for someone who starts with this one here.
Gotcha. Enjoyable. Again, I think I can answer that
Yeah,
part. I'm enjoying Mile Zero. I'm not too far, but I'm really enjoying kind of what I've started. But I will say in starting the game, I don't know exactly how to describe the genre of game, like point and click, telltale like. I don't know how I would describe it. What do you guys describe it as?
yeah. This is something really hard even for us, because there's no specific genre, like you said. Like we go from some very fast-paced sequence, almost musical, like Sayonara. We go to mini games and activities like you can paint a wall and do whatever you want, and you have some, of course, some narrative discussions. We have a lot of choices. And I think the thing is, we put ourselves no limit. We start to build up a story, and then each designer, we are very free in the team. Each designer start to make some prototypes and stuff about this moment or this moment. And if we feel that, oh yeah, this is so cool to have this activity for this moment, then we go for it. So we are really like free creatively. And the downside is that it creates a lot of codes and a lot of different gameplays to
Mhm.
tweak. But yeah, still at the end, we like to have this diversity of gameplay.
Well, that was something that caught me off guard, I think, when I looked up prior to starting Mile Zero, I looked up Road 96, preparing for our interview, and then I started playing, and suddenly I'm skateboarding over musical notes, and I'm jumping over, and I've got this great soundtrack, and then a trombone is blaring at me. Uh, I had no idea that was gonna happen. No idea, and so it was a little trippy, but in a really fun way.
Yeah, and this trippy thing is good, because after that in the game, it's a good tool for us, a narrative tool to express complex emotions, something that we cannot really show in reality except by dialogue or something. But we are limited in a game with the facial expression, and the subtlety we can get from acting is not as much as what we would like in a real human face. So
Mhm,
what you have to perceive in the mind of the character, we try to use those psychedelic rides, those moments that we go in your mind, and we show you in a very, almost not Disneyish, but like musical way, like this is what happens in your mind right now. And sometimes
mhm,
it's funny at the beginning, but then it's more like a trauma. For example, if you have a strong trauma in your memory, how you go into that trauma, how you try to even like modify it, like in a psychotherapy, you can try to modify your memories. So this is
mhm.
something very interesting, and we try to dig into that perception and metaphoric view of what you have in your mind.
Gotcha, that makes a lot of sense, and I think also for your characters to be teenagers in conflict, they would be running into a lot of emotional and mental distress, trying to figure the world out in general, much less, this dystopian, "Where do I live in this world? What's my place in it?"
Yeah.
type approach.
Yeah, there's even an event where Zoe, she has a strong trauma from 10 years before, when she was a young kid. And
Mhm,
then Kaito had a different view of this same moment 10 years before. And so they confront this, like you have the Zoe's perception of that moment. Then Kaito says, no, this is not what happened. And then you have a rewind. And then you play it as Kaito with a different point of view and reality of it. And it's
mhm.
almost like what is fake, what is true. Like, I don't know. Like,
Gotcha. I think that is tantamount to teenage life, you know? Very much teenage life. Now, the parts that are not trippy, that are not musical skateboards and such, there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of choices in ways to direct the narrative. I don't know how you design a game like that. Are you using storyboards where it's like, all right, if they say this, kick up new branch, kick down new branch? Is that how you design something like
It's
that?
kind of like that, but it's we have this kind of tool, exactly what you said, with this nodal tool. When you put a dialogue here, and then you put as many links that you want, in fact. So the good thing is that even the all of us are writing, in fact, that we have a writer who is more like a proper writing proper dialogues, I would say. And he's American, because we we are shitty at good English. So
Mm-hmm.
what we do, we everybody can do dialogues, placeholder dialogues in the game, and we build those levels with those placeholder dialogues and those links and trees, very complex trees. It's not even trees, because sometimes it's just a tag. Like, you can tag, if this happened, if this flag is on, then you can have this dialogue. If this flag is off, you can have this dialogue. So it's more easy, and less just branching is pretty, classic. As
Mm-hmm.
here, you can say, oh, if this happened, you have this dialogue. If this happened, you don't have this dialogue. And you can have a lot of different options, in fact, this with this tool. And the good thing also is that even our writer Jan is working inside the engine. So even the writer, we say, no, we don't want you to work in a document or whatever, even Excel file. We
Mm-hmm.
Because interactivity is complex, so we want you to be in Unity, and and is even like creating a different type of dialogues and stuff. So it's really cool. Yeah, we can do whatever we want, in fact.
That's super cool. And I'm curious also, tell me if I'm wrong. Road 96 had procedural elements.
Yeah, it was.
Does Mile Zero also?
Yeah, there is less for sure, because the global structure of Mile Zero is less procedural. You don't have any event that can happen anytime, as in Road 96. We don't know what's going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
So here it's more like you can choose the way you discover the place, White Sands.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 still as a classic linear story. And
Mm-hmm.
because we master more what gonna happen, the crescendo is easier to create with this
Mm-hmm.
structure. As for 196, it was really really hard to get this sense of crescendo, as we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's gonna happen to you.
Which one's easier to develop for?
But
Procedural, where you don't know?
I think Mile Zero was. We thought it would be easier to go back to a classical structure, but in fact, it was
Mm-hmm.
not, because then you have to be really, really precise, and people will not forgive you. Like, they say, "Nah, this is like the way it should be, almost like a
Mm-hmm.
movie, so it has to be perfect matching." Like, and you don't have
Mm,
these ellipses of location and time. In Ronet 6, when you go from a place to another, you have an ellipse, blah, 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 blah. Some days are passing, and then you arrive somewhere else. And then you have the random effect of being on the road. As here, you are in the same location. So there's not the same randomness that you can have. So it's more precise. It's more, this one is really more crafted as a precise candy, less than a global huge
right.
structure.
What lessons from Road 96 prepped you to make changes for Mile Zero then?
But we wanted to go further in animation, in realization, I would say, in graphic, and in all the quality, the value, I would say. We wanted to go
Mm-hmm.
further. So this is also why we chose something more linear in structure. Uh, but now I think, yeah, maybe we're ready to do both after that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I want to get to a listener question because listener Anubis wrote in several questions that I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but they came in and they said Road 96 really came as a surprise hit to me. All the characters you meet have such rich and interesting backstories. Was there always a plan to explore Chloe more? What was it about her story that you said we need to dig deeper?
No, honestly, at the beginning when we did Road, there was no idea of making another game in the same world. But now that we see the impact that this world has on people and what
Hmm.
we would love to say in this world, it's almost like a canvas now. And this canvas is really wide and we is really rich, and we can see a lot of characters coming, and even like even the same character that people know, we can really dig more into their backstory, because each one of them, we don't know where they live, where Johnny is living, where Fanny is living. Like there's so much backstories for each of them that yeah,
Hmm.
we could almost do a spin-off for each one. So it's really really cool, and it's a universe that you like to be in. It's something that is pleasant to work with also as a creator,
Hmm.
because each character is very different. Jarod is Jarod, like Stan
Hmm.
and Mitch, and so all of them, they are very specific color. And yeah, I think it's a pleasure also to work in that environment.
So I guess the question is, and Anubis asks something very similar. Why did you choose to go explore or to break the formula of Road 96 for Mile Zero?
Yeah, I think it's also we don't want to repeat ourselves. This is maybe something we really fear in the studio. Maybe because of Telltale, because we want not to go Telltale, at the end, like repeat the same recipe, even if it was a really good one. We
Hmm.
maybe we are scared about if we repeat ourselves, we just keep on. Okay, we have this working. Let's just continue on the same recipe.
Right.
I'm a bit scared of that. So we prefer to surprise people, maybe too much, maybe they're going to be
Hmm.
disturbed, but at least each new game we do is a big surprise, and there are still some common points and colors, but yeah, I think I prefer to surprise people than stay, in what we know.
Well, at the time that we're recording this, you're at the eve of launch for Mile Zero. Do you anticipate continuing to explore the world of Road 96, either another prequel, sequel, add-ons? Is that something you want to do, is to stay in this
But
world?
for now, we are prototyping a lot of things like systems. Usually, how we work is we start with the systems and the structure and try to find
Mhm.
innovation. And then when we
Mhm.
found something that is really new, really innovative, then we say, okay, we have a structure, we have a new narrative, for example, structure. Now, okay, what do we really talk about? Is it a story from Ronin Six? Is it something else? Because we have many ideas. So right now, it's not sure if it's going to be a Ronin Six story or not, because we are totally free. I would say right now, it's a good moment. I love this moment of chaos where everything is possible right now, and what we want is first to find this new. Sometimes people call it a breakthrough or something, like something new, and when we know, okay, no game has this, wow, let's go for it, and we know it's going to be challenging, but we like that.
When you've got a game that is difficult to describe the genre, like we struggled earlier, but also you can make some good comparisons and help people. How important is it to see that game get to as many places as possible? Because if memory serves, Road 96 is available on multiple
Yeah,
platforms. I believe it was on Game Pass as well.
yeah.
Uh, how important is that to get the game into players' hands? And is that something you guys decided at studio level?
Yeah. I think for me, the more people we can reach, the better, of course.
Hmm.
And as the beginning, we didn't know where would be the audience. It was like, okay, let's try to be everywhere if we can, and we'll see, we'll figure out where are the community. And in fact, the community is a lot on PC mostly, for sure. This is more like an indie title, but
Hmm.
also on Switch, but also and then on the Game Pass, it was like crazy, like for us, the Game Pass was almost like a second launch. Like it was
Really?
so many people discovered the game at this moment. It was huge, like really huge.
That's really neat. Being an Xbox show, I have to ask you more about that then. For it to be a second launch to it, so you guys got exposed to a whole new wave of players then?
Yes, yes, and it was funny because those people sometimes never heard about the game, so they thought it was a new game, and that was good. I say, yeah, it's pretty new, in fact. So it was really good. And then there was this huge wave of new players, and since that moment, it's growing. So there's a word to mouth, like, so it's really good.
Huh. That's cool to hear. That's cool to hear. Does that mean that Game Pass is something you would encourage people to check out? Like, it's something you would want more of your games to be on?
Yeah, I think definitely for the games of our size that are pretty new, pretty weird, like
Mhm.
experiences, I would say, people are more willing to try those experiences if this is in the past, of course, as if it's something they have to buy straight. If they're not sure what it is, it's would you in a restaurant would you buy for something that you really don't know, a dish that you say, oh, I don't know at all what it is it meat, is
Right,
it vegetable, I don't know. But I'm gonna try.
right. Well, do you with Game Pass, one more question on that one then, because you had so many people they get to come in. Did you guys go to them or they come to you?
It was not my part. Sorry, it was the business side. I was not involved,
Gotcha.
so I don't know which side. But I maybe it would have been from Microsoft because Phil Spencer played Ronan Six, and he really loved it. He did many tweets about the game. I was so
Mhm.
surprised. I was like, wow! I was like, oh, so cool. He's tweeting about the game like many times.
Yeah.
I was like, this is awesome. So maybe he told his team to get this game on the Game Pass.
Yeah, that's like gaming royalty talking about your art. How neat is that, right? That's cool. Well, that's really I'm really glad to hear that you guys found success on that platform because I think it paves a way for people to be interested in the world of Road 96. And I know that the opportunity to do this interview and such, I found myself really enjoying it, and I wouldn't have expected that. That was the part that caught me off guard in such a good way. Is I'm used to more action based titles. I
Yeah,
think might be
yes.
fair. And so checking out the world of Road, I was like, "Oh, this is I wanna know more about these characters. Like, what's the Black Brigade? What's White Sands? What's Kato doing?" And that was kind of the cool part, for me. I'm curious, one last thing. In Mile Zero, there is a bar, a certainty bar.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what that means and describe that for listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, as far as decision making and that certainty bar moving.
So this gauge, those two gauge, because there's one for Zoe and one for Kaito, and you can move both of them. So this is about what you think initially is true, what is your reality around you, and then you can move to the doubts. I would say to the, oh, I'm not sure. Like, well, I don't know what is reality anymore. And the good thing is that the player can really play with this. And of course, at the end of the game, those two gauges, those two values, they will impact a lot of the endings. So there are many, many endings in the end of the game, and they depend on this and on what's going to happen. Like really, so it's a very good system that we created there. That is not usual branching, that is not binary, and it's more complex. It's more like, if you hear maybe your opinion is this, and then you cannot have this choice at the end. So it's good because you see that you cannot have this choice because of what you did before. So it's very
Mhm.
interesting in terms of consequences.
Awesome. Awesome. That's cool. Well, as a final question, is there a right way to play through
Oh
Mile
no, no,
Zero?
no, no! This is where we really take care of not judging anything. Like we put a setup, we put a situation, and here you can do whatever you want. Whichever opinion you have, you can stick to that opinion. You can move it or not, and on both characters. So it's good. You can even play both sides if you want. You can have, oh,
Mhm.
let's switch Zoe from this to that, and let's switch Kaito or not from this to that. So you can almost, like, instead of aligning maybe their opinions, you can switch both of them, and then they will collide again.
Mhm. Okay, that's cool. I like it. I like it. Well, Yoan Fanise, Road 96, Mile Zero, out on all platforms, I believe.
Yeah.
PlayStations 4 and 5, Xbox
Mhm.
One, Series S and X,
Yes, even Switch. Yeah,
Switch and PC as well.
yeah, yeah. PC.
Awesome. Well, we're a day removed from the launch, but I will congratulate you on the
Thank you.
launch, and wish you all the best. Any closing comments for any new players that are checking out your world?
Wow, for new players, go to the end of this first game because the ending is very powerful. So keep it to the 5 5 6 hours. It's just, you can binge it in one night.
Mhm. All right. Yoan Fanise, thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time today.
Thank you very much.